Hey everybody, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here, and today we have to talk about Twitter's new checkmark system because, quite frankly, it just came online and it's already being a nightmare for both Twitter and everybody else. Now, interestingly enough, I wrote an article that was published this morning on Smirconish.com called Why Twitter Will Die, but I am actually cribbing essentially from Taylor Hatmaker of TechCrunch because I thought that basically this was a really good article, and so I am essentially going to be quoting and or paraphrasing Taylor quite a bit here. Now, my article was on the overall nature of why Twitter will die, but I did reference the cybersecurity issues at the end of that article regarding the blue checkmark system now that we can pay for. And so that is what Taylor's article was about, which is why I'm using it very heavily, because it underscores exactly the problem that I was talking about when I published this morning. Now, here's what's going on, and this is what we're talking about. Now, as you know, on Twitter, you can basically buy a blue checkmark that's available now for some paying subscribers, and by virtue of that, it's been injecting into the timelines of everybody with tweets that appear to be from official accounts. Apparently, though, Musk's Twitter's crew, basically their employees, have made no meaningful changes to the visual language of the blue check. So right now, it basically signals that you really are who you say you are. So the example that Taylor uses is at Coca-Cola, for instance, or you're just somebody random who basically paid the $8 to get that stamp of approval on your fake Coca-Cola account. Right now, when tweets appear in Twitter's timeline, it's impossible to visually distinguish from those two categories of the blue check accounts from basically the ones that have been there forever. So in other words, I have a fake Coca-Cola account, I paid my $8, I've got a blue check mark, the official Coca-Cola account has that blue check mark. Now Twitter users, when looking at me at a glance, think I'm the official Coca-Cola account. So this is interesting because if you want to distinguish between the two, it would require clicking through to examine the user's follower's account, which isn't necessarily a reliable way to tell, or searching for whatever clues might be found in their other tweets. Meaning, if I'm Coca-Cola and I'm tweeting on a whole bunch of stuff that Coca-Cola would never tweet on, I'm obviously not their brand. Now, clicking on the checkmark itself from a profile page apparently displays different copy too, but like everything else on Twitter, that is going to be subject to change, and this is an evolving standard. And so far, this has resulted in some quick attention for an account that was impersonating NBA superstar LeBron James, which that account announced the basketball star was requesting a trade away from the LA Lakers, obviously causing a bit of a stir. Other athletes had the same thing happen to them. There was a baseball pitcher named Aroldis Chapman, an NHL player, Connor McDavid. All of this happened. Now, as basically has been reported in TechCrunch and other places, Musk has already changed his mind a number of times on essentially this scheme to get rid of the bots and the spam by making people pay $8 a month. But now that feature is suddenly live and anybody can impersonate somebody else for $8, and essentially that's $8 a month and see their content boosted basically without any kind of vetting. So that's one of those big things. Now, all of these accounts that were impersonating like LeBron James or whoever have been suspended as they're finding them, and I should say as they're finding them on a tangent, and it happened only after these tweets gained traction and then caught attention of the moderators. So who or what is flying under the radar? You could spin up a at Nick Espinosa account or whatever that looks exactly like mine, get a blue check mark, and now people are going to think you are me, or vice versa. I could do it to you. This is the problem that we're talking about. With one half of their staff basically now that they're operating with, because they just fired half of them, it's impossible for Twitter to catch all of this stuff after the fact, if it doesn't really have any interest at the time of payment, meaning no vetting at the time of payment. This is apparently a huge issue for obvious reasons. The implication, obviously, for Twitter as a reliable news source is a potential abuse here. This is what I talked about in my article as well. And Taylor goes on to quote, and I quote, Musk held off on his haphazard plan until the day after the U.S. elections, but with many races not yet called, we can definitely expect to see confusion that's on orders of magnitude more consequential than a fake baseball trade. And yes, absolutely correct. This is what I was talking about. I mentioned in my article this morning that this is a cybersecurity nightmare. There is nothing stopping foreign intelligence services from buying a whole bunch of accounts, getting that blue check mark, and essentially posting whatever they want to post. We have a runoff election now here in the United States between Herschel Walker, the Republican, and Raphael Warnock, the incumbent senator Democrat from Georgia. That is happening on December 6th, which means we have about a month from that. Imagine if basically intelligence agencies agencies were able to create fake Walker and Warnock accounts and say whatever it is that they wanted to say. This is the problem. There is no vetting. And one of my concerns is essentially this. If I pay $8, I'm basically paying to play without any validation or verification of who I actually am. And so by virtue of that, that's an issue. Do they have the staff and resources and time now to say, okay, Nick, submit your driver's license and prove who you are? And then are they actually validating that driver's license against any kind of, let's say, state DMV from wherever my driver's license is? These are the things that we are talking about here. These are the things that this just fly by night. And he also floated, oh, well, if you're an existing, large person that already had a blue check mark, there'll be a gray check mark. And then 3 hours later, that went away. This is obviously slow rolling out. I fired up one of my test Apple units, Apple iPhone units, and logged onto my Twitter account with that. I did not get prompted to pay $8. I am actually going to, I'm telling you right now, going to pay for that $8, I should say, for that, just to get that blue check mark, just to see what security controls are there. And I'm going to talk about that as soon as I'm able to do that, but I've not been prompted for that yet. And so these are the things that we're having problems with. These are the things that I think are going to be a huge issue. What I talked about in my article is that what that blue check mark does is extend trust, meaning who you are looking at, you actually believe is legitimate. And, as Taylor mentioned, in the TechCrunch article, algorithmically, if I am paying $8, I'm going to be more prioritized. I'm going to get higher prominence. We tend to scroll past a lot of people with their random comments and stop on the blue checkmark folks, and that is a huge problem. That really is. And so I'm going to keep up on this. This is an issue, but understand, I think this is one of the huge nails in the coffin of why Twitter is going to die. Because if we have an avalanche of disinformation that intelligence agencies can simply pay to play and pay to prioritize on, all we're going to do is get inundated, and all what's going to happen is the rational people are going to leave and the extremists are going to stay. You should go read my article on that. Go read Taylor's article in TechCrunch. Both, I think, are very good articles. I'm just going to say hers is better, and here we are. So with that, there you go. Thank you for listening, and as always, make sure you've got good information. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter, the real Nick Espinosa, not the fake one with the blue check mark apparently, at Nick AESP. Same with YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everyone.